Why is that important, do you think?
Because you're going to get asked by people.
Every person you deal with, right? And what's the number one way to communicate professionalism and credibility and competence?
Have an answer.
Be knowledgeable about your industry, people, right? Statistics do a magnificent job of communicating that, right? Because it's a very specific response to a question. It's credible because they don't know that we have 1.12 months of inventory or whatever, right? How many of you read the monthly newsletter or press release is what they call it from the MLS? 1, 2, 3 hands, a shaking head. Kelsey, did you raise your hand? Dina, I saw somebody.
Sometimes I do.
Read it.
Every day.
Every month, read it. If you don't have time, watch my video. That is the number one source of data that I use to create my monthly market update video that I send out to asset managers.
I watch yours, that's why I wasn't.
Yeah. And if you guys are entrepreneurial, you should do what Janice and I think Justin and Lucas I've seen do. Take my script, I email it out, record your own. Look how smart you will appear, right? So anyway, we're going to go through 2017, 2018, or what I like to call not 2017 a year in review, but everything's going so well. Also known as time to make 2018 the bitch.
Boom.
And now is the time to get after it, period, right? Every broker you know is stumbling out of the stupor of the holidays and going, oh crap, I don't have anything to work on. And they're gonna start working on finding deals. So hopefully, if you're coming to these trainings, you've already been working on it.
Right.
I think my clicker is battery's dead. So here's what we're gonna cover. 2017 nationally, regionally, locally, and then we'll get into 2018, what to expect, what's coming next, all right? Can you see okay, Chris?
Yeah.
You got the big tripod in front of you, so.
How's the camera?
You'll have battery. All right, so let's talk inventory. 4.6 months of inventory nationally, right? So just a refresher on what this number means. If we sell 1,000 houses a month and there's 6,000 active listings currently, that means there's 6 months of inventory, right? Well, nationally, we sell almost 6 million houses a year and there's only 4.6 months of inventory. Why is that significant? That's the definition of a seller's market. 6 months of inventory is considered to be in balance. And what imbalance means is sellers don't have any leverage over buyers, and buyers don't have any leverage over sellers. That's 6 months. Well, we have less than 6 months. That means sellers have leverage, right? Anyone want to guess what it is in our MLS? 1.12. Thank you, Scott. That is a severe seller's market, right? Those of you that were in success hours this morning, we were looking at the last 24 hours. 88 new homes came on the market yesterday. Isn't that awesome? You know how many sold in the last 24 hours?
90.
160.
Oh.
So we put 80 on, but sold twice as many. That means inventory went even lower than what you're going to see in these stats, right? So 1.12 months is what you would call a severe seller's market. Want to guess what King County by itself is?
0.57.
Snohomish County is 0.57. The MSA, which includes King, Pierce, Snohomish, and Kitsap, those 4 counties are defined by our census as the metropolitan statistical area known as Seattle. 0.7 months across those 4 counties. Even more severe seller's market, right? This is why you're dealing with escalator clauses and bidding wars, and why Scott and I spend thousands and thousands of dollars to generate listing leads. Because that's what the market needs, and they sell in a hot minute, right?
So that number is from December or is out?
This is end of the year, December. This is out of the press release that came out Friday, right? The MLS circulates that press release on or before the 7th of the month, every month. So I'm just on the lookout for it. When it comes, I read it, I highlight parts of it, and I write a script. And then I record it, okay? You should do the same thing. King County, 0.51 months. So there's 2 weeks of inventory in King County. That's nuts, right? What's really nuts is at the same time there's only 2 weeks of inventory. Anyone want to guess what percentage of homes in King County have been on the market for over 45 days? Like you would think based on this it's like 0 or less than 5%.
45%.
45? Anyone else?
20.
20? You were in the class this morning. 25.
Oh, that's right. I
25%.
forgot that. I heard it.
So what does that tell you?
They're overpriced.
Sellers are fishing, right? It's the textbook. My neighbor put his house on for 700 and got 8, so I put my house on for 8 and sat, right? There's a number of videos where Scott and I train on how to talk to a seller and get them to be realistic about pricing. And the phenomenon in this sort of market where there's only 2 weeks of inventory is this is how it goes. And I'll explain this to a seller exactly like this. I'll go, every buyer that might be interested in your house has the MLS in their pocket, right? When they look on Redfin or HometownAdvisor.com or anywhere else, they're going to see your neighbor's house for 700 and they're going to see your house for 800. They're going to assume that every house sells for more than the asking price because statistically it's true. Across the MLS, homes are selling at 100.4% of asking. So that means on average, everything's selling for a little bit over asking, right? So the buyer, the consumer thinks, well, it's going to sell over asking, and at 800, it's already not a very good deal. And it's going to sell for more than that. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit on the sidelines. I'm not going to bother. And the 800 listing languishes and ends up selling for much less than it would have had they priced it at a number that made it look like a good deal and draw in multiple bidders. Does that make sense? That's the plight of overpricing in a hot market, right? And they'll tell you, but we just need one, right? But the one is going to look on his phone and pass. So don't let your sellers do that. Sales. Nationally, a little over 5.5 million homes changed hands last year. It's a lot of houses, right? How many do you think sold in our MLS? People are doing the math right now. 500,000 divided by 50 states, right? Almost 110,000 homes changed hands last year over our MLS. What's your personal market share? Right? I love this slogan. I love all the slogans we put on the walls, but that one resonates, right? There's not a lot you can do about the national economy, but there is a lot you can do about your personal economy. I look at that every day, because every day I want to be working on my personal economy. Seattle MSA, right, the 4 counties, 61,000 houses. King County was almost half of that. The other 3 counties made up the other half. That means if there was 110,000 sales, there was almost 220,000 commission checks. It's a lot of money changing hands, right? So we have to figure out, how do we get our piece of that? Your personal economy. Any questions on these numbers? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This battery's making my life so much easier. Current inventory. Now this is as of December 31st, and as I just shared with you, it's lower now, right? 8,553 actives. How common is it for us to be under 10,000 houses on the market?
It's pretty uncommon. Well, lately it's been
Pretty un-
it's been common the last few years, but typically it's uncommon.
Yeah, it is. It's becoming more common. And not only is it uncommon to be under 10, we're heading towards under 8, let alone 9, right? It's only the 4th time in all of 2017 that we were under 10. The other ones were, I want to say August, September, November, I think, something like that, right? Because it's just been this steady trend downward.
That's the entire MS?
It's the entire MLS, yeah. And our MLS covers 21 of 26 counties in the state of Washington, so not all, the whole state, but damn near. We cover all the ones where there's population of any measure. Here's the crazy thing though. Those 4 times under 10,000 are the only times we've been under 10,000 in 10 years. So Shrek's comment earlier about the last few years, it's true we've been heading that way for the last few years. We've been in a hot seller's market for 3 years now. But we never went below 10,000 until last year. Median prices, what are they going to do when there's a shortage of inventory?
Whoop.
Right? If you read the press release this time around, Lennox Scott is actually quoted as saying 2018 is going to be awesome and robust for sellers because of the market situation. And that's true, but not for the reasons he's saying. It's sort of fabricated, right?
Lack of inventory.
It's like an artificial demand created by a shortage of inventory. And I can tell you how this all started 3 years ago and what kind of created this circumstance, but it doesn't matter. It is what it is today, and we have to learn the rules of engagement for this market, right? That's what today's about. Because this should be painting kind of a bleak picture for you if you have a stable of buyers and no sellers, right? Does that mean I'm scared to take on new buyers? Hell no. I'll be showing houses Saturday morning. But it's because I'm equipped with the information and I know the writing winning offers training, right? I can't remember if I sent it to the sales app thread. If I did, it might not have gotten there, but I sent out an email last week with the writing winning offers philosophy in text form, like a written form. Did you guys get that? It was, the context was an email. I had a client ask me, what are the things besides price that we should do to be more aggressive? And I took an hour and a half and wrote a very thorough response. Did you guys get that?
What did you title it? Do you remember?
Probably writing winning offers was in the subject line.
Can you say it again?
Yeah, Justin, would you shoot me an email so that when I get back to my inbox, I'll send it out from my Miller Lane account and make sure you all get it. Median prices, right? So shortage of inventory, it's basic economics, right? Drives up prices. King County rose 16% in year over year. So December 2017 compared to December 2016. Do you guys remember the last time we had 2 years in a row of greater than 15% appreciation?
Yeah, right before the crash.
That's right, 2006 and 2007. That's why there's all the articles about, are we gonna have another bubble, right? Who thinks we're gonna have another bubble?
I think it'll just,
There's no right or wrong, right? We're just looking in a crystal ball, so you don't have to be shy to raise your hand.
I think it'll level out, not
Yeah.
crash.
Your clients are gonna ask you,
Yeah.
right? Because that paralyzes them with fear. If they really think that's coming, they do not want to buy. They want to buy, but they want to wait until after it crashes because they're going to get it cheaper. So if I get asked, Ed, do you think there's going to be a bubble, even on the heels of a conversation about, the last time we had over 15% appreciation, blah, 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 the answer is no. The difference between 2006 and 7 and today is this appreciation isn't driven by reckless lending. It was in 2006 and 7.
A lot less speculation in that number than the prior.
Right?
year.
Shrek and I have been in this business quite a while, and we can't tell you how many times we had somebody say, I'm just gonna buy, hang on to it for a few months and sell it. Or hang on to it for a year and sell it and take the profit, right? Appreciation was a foregone conclusion for 50 years. And then we had 35% depreciation, and they went, oh crap, right? Now, this is still white hot, almost overheating appreciation now that we've had a second year in a row of 16%. And so we should be worried about, will those values stay lofted? And so the longer version of my answer to that question is no, I don't anticipate a bubble, but I can tell you that you're going to see appreciation start to flatten. It may even go negative in some neighborhoods. Sadly, it's probably where the Chinese are spending a ton of money, like in Clyde Hill. Right? Because 2,500 square foot 1970s Rambler that sells for 3.8 million ain't worth it. Now, will it go down? I wouldn't bet any amount of money that it will go down. But I would say if there's going to be depreciation, it'll be in neighborhoods like that. You'll just see a flattening elsewhere. Now, the secret between you and I is, I'm also crossing my fingers when I say that. Because I'm not a fan of 16% appreciation 2 years in a row, because I lived through the last time it happened, right? But I also know the economics behind it. Single-family residences, if you isolate them out of the King County totals, went up by 15.5%. You guys, when you saw the 16, you probably thought that was houses, right? So guess what that means condos have done? If houses actually were lower, 28% appreciation in condos.
Yeah, it's insane. More people can afford it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of a segue off Scott's comment is, it's easier to go 28% when you're starting at 300 than it is when you're starting from 500, right? 550.
But that's kind of the thing, right? If you're revising your criteria and realize that a single family is just a touch out of reach and less comfortable on your pocketbook, you jump into that condo market.
Yeah,
And that just pushes that up
you're gonna pay 402,
100%.
whereas a year earlier, you paid 315.
Then you add interest rates on that, it's even less buying power.
Anybody want to guess what the inventory looks like for condos? Like how many months?
They go fast.
1 week? 10 days.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, I'm trying to just push data and knowledge into all your heads. Here are some things you can and should say, right? Well, why is that, Ed? Why is it like that? Well, here's the problem. Builders can't keep up with the demand. New inventory isn't coming into the market at the same pace new buyers and homeowners are. Really, how fast are people coming into the market? The last measure was 1,100 people a week are moving to Seattle. Right? Hey, York.
Hey, yeah.
Good to see you. Find a chair if you can. There's one over here. 1,100 a week, right? That's a lot of people. And a big portion of that is Amazon. So do those people make good salaries and want to buy houses? Most of them, right? You might have the occasional guy that says, well, I kind of want to rent for a year and figure out the area before I buy, but as a group, they're buyers. So what can we expect in the coming year? Right? This deficit of inventory isn't going to get fixed overnight. It wasn't created overnight, right? It's been a steady 3 years of selling more than what is coming on the market that drove us down under 9,000 houses. Well, we're going to actually see the tide start to reverse. I would say March, April, May, you're going to see in my videos, actually April, May, June, because it'll come on the heels of a March press release. You're going to see my videos talking about how the amount of inventory coming on is finally greater than the amount going off the market. It won't be by much, and it may not even be a positive number, because those are also the hottest selling months, right? But sellers are going to take advantage of the shortage and start putting their homes on the market. You need to be farming and marketing for sellers, right? If you've been part of the Foundation for Success group training we're doing every Fridays, we've been talking about calling your sphere every week. And even that's been difficult for people. Get over it. You have to talk to people. I make more money the more I talk to people, period. Right? So reconnect with your sphere, all of them. Get in a habit of talking to them monthly. Get comfortable with asking for referrals. Who do you know that would benefit from my services? Who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling a house? I'd love to take great care of them. Whatever your vernacular is, get used to it, use it daily, and I would say you should be making 20 to 25 of those calls a day. And if you're not, because you don't have enough people in your sphere, you better get in the habit of adding to your sphere. I added a guy to my sphere last week while standing in a towel after having just gotten out of the shower at the gym. It was a little awkward for both of us, but I dropped the mayor campaign on him. I said, I don't have a card, but I'll get you one in a second. Right? It's a habit. It's a skill first, but then it becomes a habit. And you need to cross over to that as quickly as you're able to. All right? What about rates?
They're going up 3 times.
The Federal Open Market Committee meeting on December 13th and 14th, right, Shrek? Janet Yellen's tenure ends next month. But in that meeting, her parting press conference was, we're doing it 3 more times next year. What does that do to your buyer?
Reduces their buying power.
Increases their buying power. What does that do to your seller?
Puts less money in their pocket.
Yeah. It also motivates the crap out of them, right? Because they're smart enough to know that that trend may not affect me initially, but there's a point where it slows down appreciation and makes bidding wars go away. I want to take advantage of this spring selling season. That's part of the reason why I said earlier, you watch, inventory is going to start to really rise. Because sellers feel like we're on borrowed time, right? This can't be like this forever.
And they're gonna raise it the first 3 meetings because they're concerned about the rate the stock market's going up, and
Yeah.
there could be 4 this year. I think they said 3, but they're,
I would agree with you, yeah. I mean, the signs of inflation are beginning to show, right? There's many that would argue they've been showing for a while, right?
Can I ask a question or wait until
Yeah.
later?
You can ask.
So this rate is kind of, I was told that mortgage rate has to do with the treasury yield.
Right.
So seems, what's the relationship between those two?
So the typical rate that the Fed will raise is the discount rate.
Yeah.
It's not the rate at which we borrow money, it's not prime, although sometimes they will manage prime. But the discount rate is the cost of funds borrowed overnight between financial institutions.
Okay.
So if you're Wells Fargo and I'm B of A and you've got a big offering that you're doing and you need money, you're gonna borrow it from me, then I'm gonna charge you the discount rate.
Okay.
That rate moving up will also cause us both to raise our mortgage rates. We will do it cognizant of what's happening with treasuries, but our cost of funds just went up, so we're gonna pass that along to our consumers.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
They raise short-term rates, but it affects all rates.
Exactly. And it also tells the markets sort of a sign of things to come. And the markets make the most money when they are ahead of those changes, right?
Yes.
October 2001, mortgage rates rose 100 basis points overnight.
Yeah.
And it only sticks in my head because number one, I own a mortgage company and was doing loans and had a client threaten to sue me. Why didn't you lock me in?
Was your fault?
Because yesterday when I called you and suggested you lock, you told me not to. Oh, you should have, you're the professional that, right? It happens fast and can happen fast. We actually want the Fed to manage it in a more measured way, but it's gonna have an effect on our clients, right?
But they're
It's better
spoiled.
when they tell you what they're gonna do than when they surprise
Yeah.
the market.
Yeah. How many times have you heard, whether you're really in tune to these markets or not, you hear the news on the radio and they say, the market had that quarter increase
Right.
built in already. And it's for the exact reason that Shrek just cited, right? They took their cards in the last meeting that they were going to be doing this, the markets adjusted upward, and then the meeting happened, they did it, and the markets didn't have to respond too greatly, if at all. Right? That's steady, right? That's how you manage an economy. Right? Their company line is they're gonna let inflation guide their future increases. That's what leaves the door open for 4 instead of 3. Because their number one weapon for managing and preventing inflation is rates, period. Right? There'll be 3 more increases this year. The next meeting, just in a couple weeks. So if Shrek's crystal ball is right, and I subscribe to Shrek's crystal ball, I'm on his newsletter, rates are going up 0.25% in 2 weeks. Now you watch over these next 2 weeks. Watch what the 30-year fix does. It's probably going to creep up about 1/4. Right? Actually, before we get off that topic, do you see how being knowledgeable about mortgages, even though that's not your job, makes you more valuable to your customer? Right?
So just an anecdote, I was talking to a client last year about, hey, you know, they promised us 3, it sounds like they're gonna promise us 3, and then we got together for a showing, and it was just after the last Fed meeting, and they had just raised it, and they were like, yeah, you were right. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
You're like, hell yeah!
Yeah, let's
right?
get this one, let's go, we need to go, otherwise they're gonna do it to you again, let's keep
Yeah.
going.
Absolutely. No,
And,
it's very powerful stuff. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing, they've said they're gonna raise 3 times. We all think a raise is always 1/4. Ed and I have probably lived through a few raises that were 1/2. I don't know if I've ever had more than 1/2. I'd have to go back.
I
and
can't
think.
remember.
But if they're expecting 1/4 and they raise 1/2, that's also a
Slap
little
in the face.
dramatic for the market.
Yeah, that sends shockwaves, right? That means the market goes, oh crap, we trusted that they had it under control, but now they don't even are
Right.
sure they have it under control, oh crap, right? But the message for all of you is be aware, be knowledgeable, read the stuff when it comes out, so that you can speak intelligently and look like a rock star like Justin was.
Does that typically make people panic and do more, or do they do less? Because
A more rate would send, I don't know if I would use panic, but it would be cause for concern for the market.
Well, it tends to kind of divide, right? There will be a group of people that will view that as motivation to hurry up and do it before it gets worse. There'll be a group of people that now can't afford or decide you know, a lot of people misinformed will go, I'll wait until rates settle back down. We're in 50-year lows of rates. Yeah, is 4% higher than 3.5 was a year ago? Of course. But
But
holy
still
cow,
low.
when I got into
Historical
business,
perspective, oh, yeah.
It's lower than
Like a
16.
13%.
prime was at 13 when
Yeah,
I got into business.
13%.
My own parents had a 30-year fixed mortgage on their house, had a son who was a licensed loan officer, and their rate was 13.99,
Yeah.
and kept it for like 15 years. And when I found out, I was like, what the hell are you doing? They didn't know. They didn't ask, right?
Sorry, what's FOMC again? Mortgage.
Federal Open Market Committee.
Open market. Okay.
Right? That's the Fed. Who has read the new tax reforms? All 20,000 pages or whatever.
I've not read them.
I
Negative.
I read a review about them.
Was your review specific to real estate?
In general, the stock market, everything. And
So no, the answer is no. Right? What
I-
we need to know, you have a duty to understand what the changes are that impact home buyers and home sellers. Because it's gonna serve your personal economy, number one, and it's gonna allow you to be in a better position to give advice to your clients.
I think there is an article in MLS and it talk about the tax reform to home buyers and investors. It's a
Perfect.
very good article.
Did you all hear that? There's an article in the MLS, I assume in the like news and press release section.
Yeah.
Go read that. All right, we're gonna touch on it here, but it'll give you a lot more depth. So, could this affect homeowners? The mortgage interest deduction, I should have put in.
In around here.
Yes. It will
Reduced from $1
affect-
million to $750.
It will affect some of our clients.
Yeah. The average sale price in Bellevue was over 800,000. All right, now this is loan amount, not sales price.
Interest deduction.
I've seen a bunch of misinformation on the internet, so I'm going to clarify. And again, you should read this article that Janice is talking about, because I'm sure Justin Haig had his facts straight when he wrote it, or read it. If I have $1 million mortgage, I still get to deduct the interest on the 750 portion of it. I don't get to deduct anything over 750. Does that make sense? Some of the misinformation I saw was if my mortgage is 751, I'm screwed, I don't get to deduct anything. That's not true. Jamie, did you have a question?
Yeah, so the interest is only the amount of interest you pay?
Right, so if I had a
Deductible?
750 mortgage,
Uh-huh.
my monthly payment might be, let's say, $5,000, right? Of the $5,000, not all of it's interest if I have an amortizing payment. So I spent 60 grand that year, let's say 55 of it was interest. I can deduct the 55 from my income.
That's for the new loan, right? How about existing?
He said yesterday that
Yeah,
it
I
was
don't
loans of
remember.
record as of December 15th, so it still applied to older loans too. But I'm not certain, read the article in the MLS.
I read a couple of things. It affects all loans. If you got a $2 million mortgage, you're gonna be able to deduct interest on $750,000. It's,
Now, what you should be thinking about today is, do I have any clients
I'm looking
that are
for it.
thinking of buying and this affects them,
Yeah.
right?
I wish.
I wish. Yeah. Some of the Chinese
I have
agents are
one-
going, I got like 10 of those. Could I advise my client on this $1.1 million purchase to tell them you should put 350 down at
100%.
least?
Yes. Yes.
35%.
Yeah, because then their loan amount is under, at or below 750. So it could affect people that way, and you would be wise to give them that advice. You'd even be wise to give that advice to someone that it doesn't apply to. Shoot, it's a shame that we're not, we're looking at 2 million instead of 1.25, because then you could put enough down to only, even though it doesn't apply to them, I just communicated to them that I'm super knowledgeable about this stuff, right? And it raises my credibility. Right? May cause some buyers to put more down. State and local tax deduction is capped at 10,000. That's a big impact on people's AGI, right? Adjusted gross income. Because it used to be uncapped. Do we have a state income tax?
No.
So you would deduct that from your federal tax anyway.
It's against our
It's
charter.
against our constitution, right? Standard deduction almost doubled.
Can I go back to the state and local tax?
Yeah,
Does that include real estate
property
taxes?
taxes.
Property taxes, so if your property taxes were 20 grand a year, you just got a haircut by 10.
Yep, because on your last year's
Yeah.
returns, you deducted 20.
And
That makes sense to everybody?
That could affect quite a few people, actually.
Yes.
For owner occupied.
Definitely.
Not for investment property, it'll be different.
Standard deductions doubling, it's, it's a benefit, right? It probably causes a lot of people to not bother doing itemized deductions. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Are we gonna be able to write off our mileage and all, like, real estate stuff or not?
If you took all those write-offs and they totaled 23 grand, don't bother, just take the standard deduction, it's bigger, right? That's the whole point of the standard deduction, is to give you the ability to not itemize. And this covers, the bell curve of Americans.
Unreimbursed business expenses, mileage.
Right. If you follow the, yeah. If you follow the coaching from a couple weeks ago, December 21st, when we talked about setting up an entity and having a business credit card and all that stuff, you might be able to come up with a higher number, right? But might.
What's HOH? I missed that.
Head of household.
Oh,
It's actually lower if you are married, file singly, or if you're single. And the tax brackets got reduced on average. It's way too complicated to try and put it on the slide. There's some good calculators out there though. Wall Street Journal has one, there's a couple others. You can literally just go in and put in your stuff and it'll go, oh, your new tax would have been this. And for most Americans,
Went down.
it's gonna go down.
you wouldn't believe it, based on the.
This is the biggest one
Yep.
that'll probably come up the most. Capital gains is unchanged. So you guys all know the rule, living at 2 of the last 5 years, you get a $250,000 exemption, 500 for a couple. That's the same, hasn't changed. But that's a point of fear for a lot of people that own rentals. Because think about it. If I had 6 rentals and I was on this plan of I'm going to move into each one of them and live in each one for 2 years so that I can then sell them and have a reduction in my capital gains, I could be 6 years into that plan and have sold 2 of them and I'm living in the third, and all of a sudden Trump starts talking about changing everything and I'm like, crap, that could really dramatically impact me. So I breathed a huge sigh of relief when they didn't mess around with that.
And that's still 15%.
Yeah.
So if you sell a rental and you gain $250,000 in cash, you still get to.
As long as you lived in it 2 of the last 5
Okay.
years. And it would still be taxed at the 15%. If you didn't live in it 2 of the last 5 years, it'll get taxed based on your tax bracket. You have to claim it as just regular old income. And if you're in the 28 or whatever, that hurts, right?
Which I think is also affecting inventory a little bit, is properties have gone up so much, people are just keeping them as rentals instead of, there used to be a turnover on that as
Yeah.
well, and I think that turnover's been reduced.
Yeah. Renter's Warehouse and those other
Yeah.
advertisers are probably causing some of that. Anyway.
So would that be a positive sign to have more inventory because people who lived there for 2 years and they are feared maybe Trump, changes the law again,
Right.
then they rush to sell.
Yeah, it could have that effect. That's sort of that dividing issue, right? Some people will be motivated by it, others might be fearful. Others, in my example, right, if I've now lived in this third house for 2 years, I might move out of it and not sell it, but rent it again. If the law had changed, I could move out, not rent it, and hope that it changes again. Most of these changes are gonna be on the books until 2026. And then my hunch is Trump won't be in power anymore, and they'll probably get changed again, right?
But you never know.
But you never know. So the key here is twofold, two takeaways from this slide for all of you. Number one, you're not CPAs, do not give tax advice, period, ever, right? So qualify all of your answers and say, this is my understanding, but you should talk to a CPA, and if you don't know one, I can give you a referral, right? Number two, be knowledgeable enough, though, to give them guidance about what maybe they should be asking their CPA. Hey, here's something that could be an issue for you. You better go find out, right? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't fully understand it, but and maybe through your readings you figured it out. But if you own an entity on the new GOP tax bill, it says that pass-through income is capped at 25%. So those of you that make a lot of money and get taxed higher than 25%, if you take out dividends and such, rather than paying yourself a larger salary, you can cap your taxes at 25%. Do you fully understand
I
that?
don't. I've heard versions of that for an entity owner. I've also heard versions of it for an investor with rental properties that puts them in LLCs or other entities. And Janice and I actually met with a CPA yesterday to pick his brain, and he was ecstatic about the benefit to investors of the new reform. And I didn't fully understand it, but now I know I want to read more about that. So, long-winded answer that no, I don't know.
Okay,
But you'd be wise to read about it. And when you do, share it with the rest of us.
for sure.
Any other questions on this? All right? We're not CPAs. So how do you help your clients win with all of this knowledge now, right? Well, you got to stay informed and engaged, right? And that means knowing what's going on, practicing what we train on. We've done the Writing Winning Offers training 3 times, recorded all of them, but haven't done it again since. And that was maybe, I don't even remember, June or something. Please watch those videos. It's good shit.
Yeah,
Right? It works. We probably had, I'm measuring this purely based on how many people came to me over the course of 2017 and said, guess what, I won, and I wasn't the highest offer. There had to have been at least 30 of those last year. That's because people are making their offer more attractive in all other areas besides price, but being competitive on price rather than just trying to buy the market, right? So is there anyone that wants me to elaborate on that? Justin?
I was gonna say, I just got 2 that we were up against people who waived everything and we didn't. And there wasn't much in price, maybe like $3,000 difference in price, which really doesn't comfort a seller any, but because of the communication and everything else that we did in the offer, we won.
Yeah?
And it's all straight out of Writing Winning Offers and stuff that we talked
Yeah,
about.
that's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because I wasn't even thinking of that. The 2 phone calls that you make before submitting any offer is the most powerful thing that you're going to do besides writing a strong offer, right? Those agents like and trusted Justin and did not view him as less likely or unable to close, even though he had contingencies and these other people had none, right? That's powerful. And you wouldn't get that. I see him all the time on my foreclosure listing. Here you go, Ed, here's an offer. I don't know who the person is, never talked to him once, right? That's That's a shitty agent. Don't be a shitty agent.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If we release earnest money early and it doesn't go through no fault of the buyer, does he get his money back even though,
Depends on how you wrote the offer,
so,
right? If I put earnest money to be released to the seller, upon waiver of inspection, I have a claim to getting it back if I still had another contingency left, like let's say financing. It's not going to be easy to get back though, because I released it to the
Yeah,
seller,
that's what I'm worried about.
right? So I can't even remember the last time I wrote an offer where I released earnest money.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't recommend you do it. I see agents do it all the time,
Yeah.
and I always say, why do you need to do that? Well, I talked to the listing broker, they suggested it. That's not a reason. How many times have you had a listing broker say, we're really looking for an offer that waives everything and releases the earnest money? Well, no kidding. We all are, right?
Catch.
But what agents hear is, I have to write an offer in that way. That's not true, right? This doesn't mean don't be aggressive, persuasive, and all this stuff. It means have the two conversations. Be as charming as you can. Build rapport like crazy. That allows you to be less aggressive in certain areas of your offer, right? And take advantage of this table. We meet every morning at this table. If you want to brainstorm ways to make your offer stronger besides price, bring it up in success hours. That stuff's fun for me. There's other stuff, not so fun, that's fun. Negotiation, writing winning offers, protections. Did you know there's contingencies you can put in your offer that really are no greater risk to your buyer? Did you know that? Like the presumption is every contingency makes my offer a little bit weaker, right? So my goal should be to have as few as possible. Well, there's contingencies that you can put in that aren't perceived as a big issue by the seller that still protects your client, right? Or there's things you can waive on behalf of the buyer that are perceived as a benefit to the seller that really don't impact your buyer. That's some of the stuff we cover in writing winning offers, right? Like, I'll give you one example, I'll move on, because this is not the recording for writing winning offers. How many of you have waived paragraph W on Form 21? If you don't know what it is, go read it, and here's why. If I waive paragraph W, I've done a couple of things. Number one, I probably taught the listing broker that that clause is even in there, because they've never read it. And as an aside, if you don't read all the forms that you ask your clients to sign, shame on you. That's unprofessional, don't be unprofessional, right? But if I waive paragraph W, what it says is, if there are any material differences in the listing as compared to reality, I have 10 days to bring those to light and I can get out of the deal, right? So an example would be, my client converted a room to a fourth bedroom and we listed it as a fourth bedroom, and it's technically and legally not a fourth bedroom, it's only a 3-bedroom house. That's a material difference. I could put a bullet in that deal if my client changed his mind up to 10 days after, right? None of you, I would bet, had thought of that clause as an escape hatch, right? You've been doing this a while, so I recant my none of you comment. But that's because you had other contingencies, right? An inspection or a plan to use the Form 17 3 days to do an inspection or some other due diligence window that you were going to take advantage of. Well, you could strike paragraph W, teach the listing broker what that meant, because now you forced him to read it, conveyed to the listing broker that you're a damn good agent. You know contracts. What does that communicate to the listing broker?
They should be scared.
I'm pretty good at what I do, we're gonna close, right? If I'm the listing broker and I have 3 offers and yours is one of them, and you did that and wrote a good, thorough, completely filled out offer, I'm gonna tell the seller we should take this one, because this person knows what they're doing, right? And you probably gave me an opportunity to shine to the seller without having to show them that I never knew that clause was in there. I'll go, here, let me show you an example. See this clause right here? This is a free 10-day out for the buyer, and they've struck it. I always like when agents do that because that means they're committed. I just made myself as a listing broker look good to the seller, and your offer now gets accepted, right? So that's just one example. There are others. Watch the video. How do you be a professional? Right? Read, practice, study, learn. I love Scott's sayings. He's always sharpening his saw. Right? Sales, to some people, is icky. Oh, you're in sales. Hell no. In this room, in this company, it is something to be damn proud of. It's a profession, and we're really, really good at it because we work on it every day. And if you don't, start.
I had a sales guy apologize for being in sales to me yesterday.
What?
What?
We were negotiating an issue, and it was his default was, well, you know, I'm just the sales guy. I'm not the owner of the company. I can't make the final decision. You know, I'm just the slimy sales guy. He like tries to make a joke of it. And I said, you're the most important person in your company because without your company, they have no revenue. Period. So you're welcome here. Now go get me my money. So the end of the day is if you're ever embarrassed about it, you're showing that to other people, whether you know it or not.
Thank you. You probably turned that guy's world upside down. He's probably used that line on a dozen other people, and they got a laugh out of him, or got it to soften the mood, or whatever. And
Ticked me off.
yeah, what he doesn't know is he probably offended Scott, right? You tell me you're embarrassed to be the sales guy. Well, guess what? I am, and you're an idiot.
You call me slimy?
So
Exactly.
read,
That's what I heard.
right? Means the press release that comes out every month. Today's only the 10th, right? It's only 3 days old. Go read it. It's 3 pages long. The 4th page is numbers, stats. It's a quick read, and you'll get all that info into your head, and you watch. A conversation will happen later the same day, and you will use some of the stats that you just read. Real estate can be one of the most fascinating industries if you bring a thirst for knowledge to it. I tell this to people all the time, because you know, I started in 1987. This is my 31st year. And you know what? I still learn something new every day. And that's why I continue to do this. Lots of people, think of how many people you know. Well, I'm 50, so I know a lot more of them. They get to a point in their career, they change careers because they got bored. This is never boring. I don't expect it will ever become boring. Are there things that I'm so good at I can do them almost unconsciously? Of course. That's an awesome weapon that I have, right? But I'm also thoroughly engaged. And part of it is because I do these things, right? I brush up every month because I read that press release. I read other things online. Consider the source, but get information. Once you do that, you become a tremendous resource to your customer, right? If you watch the Foundation for Success videos, you've probably heard us say more than once, you are in a constant effort to demonstrate character and competence, right? Character, you either got it or you don't. It's like I tell my sons, right? Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. Tanner, those of you that know my older son, he's interviewing for jobs right now. We were coaching him, and my wife said, make sure you work in that thing Dad says about integrity. And he did, and the interview went well. Competence is what we're talking about now, though. right? You can't just fumble your way through some transactions and become a pro. You will gain knowledge for sure, but some of it might be from skinning your knee. Competence is having the knowledge ahead of time and avoiding skinning your knee, right? Because skinning your knee can mean losing a customer, losing referrals down the road because you just damaged your credibility, right? Think about, Scott touched on this on the 21st when we trained upstairs, right? Think about a referral. If Jay is a real estate broker and I'm your friend and you and I have played tennis together for 15 years, we're close, right? And Dina I know through some other thing, right? And she says, I got a house to sell. I think of you immediately. That's just how the brain works, right? But then I pause because there's risk for me. As much as I love Jay, there's risk for me of putting them together if I'm the one that puts them together, because if she does a lousy job, I've injured my relationship with Dina. If I do nothing, my relationships with both of them stay healthy, stay the same, right? If it goes well, I can elevate both relationships. But the downside risk is greater than just doing nothing, right? So it takes some real confidence for me to without hesitation say, Dina, you need to talk to Jay, she's going to do a magnificent job for you, right? Well, we drive that in people. It's the way we communicate. It's the way we demonstrate competence, right? People see my social media presence or my videos or whatever. Every one of those things elevates their confidence in me. It increases referrals. Gene does a masterful job of video. I'm envious. You do an awesome job. Every one of those videos, every one that gets viewed, raises their confidence in you, right? Video is going to be the #1 media on the internet for years to come. You should embrace it now. Get comfortable with it. Use it. I told Scott last week, I said I paid for BombBomb. You guys never heard of BombBomb, right? It's an integrated video tool that goes, you can use it in through your phone and through their website, but it also integrates right into your email. So you can send video emails. So if Brandon sent me an email saying, you know, where can I find the video on blah, I can record a response and send you a 90-second video that says, here, let me share my screen to you, here's where you click, and here's how you find it, whatever, right? That happens faster than me trying to type it out, or I can call them, I guess. That's old school. Anyway, stay informed, practice, use technology. We got videos on all this stuff. Be a resource. Mic drop.